Hi, it's your favorite startup founder, Sidney Madison Prescott, and welcome to Mirror Mirror, a startup founder's peek behind the mirror. Great to have you here and can't wait for you to hear the latest episode. Welcome to Mirror Mirror, a startup founder's peek behind the mirror. And today I'd like to talk about what it means to be a founder who comes from a non-typical background. And when I say that, what I mean is when you think about kind of the rhetoric that goes around in terms of what it means to be a startup founder, it always revolves around the same kind of heteronormative claims, which are a startup founder, if you think about that dynamic, it's usually someone who is hyper masculine, but simultaneously super geeky. It's someone who typically has come from a privileged background. It is typically someone who is Caucasian. It's typically someone who is male. And it is typically someone who also has had the privilege of being able to go to an Ivy League school. And if you think about this, it applies to a lot of founders, right? So it applies to Mark Zuckerberg. He originally went to Harvard. It applies to Jeff Bezos. He originally was able to fund Amazon through a loan of several $100,000 from his family. Most people don't realize this, but the way that Mark Zuckerberg actually basically solidified his coding skills is that when he was a kid, his parents hired a private tutor for him to learn how to code. And these are the things that really rattle around in my brain when I consider what it means to be a founder in today's modern society. There is an assumption that you have a certain amount of privilege that has been afforded to you, which then creates this genius, which then you can pour that genius into the conceptualization of a company, and that company starts as a seed, as a startup, quote unquote, and then grows eventually into a corporation that you can take public through an IPO. However, that's not the case for everyone. And I, in particular, am an individual who is the exact opposite of I'll say, the stereotypical startup founder that you see being celebrated in the news, on LinkedIn, and on social media. I come from a background that is highly, I would say, outside of the norm, meaning that I come from a background where, I lived in poverty, my entire childhood, my entire adolescence. When I say poverty, I do mean abject poverty. Most of the time, there were not adequate resources in the home. And when I say resources, I mean everything from not having adequate food to eat to not having adequate access to clothing to be able to go to school. I wore the same pair of jeans every single day of my entire 12th grade year in high school, my senior year in high school. And that was because I didn't have access to anything else. And the tops that I wore were actually maternity tops that I got from out of a parent's closet, and I was able to take those maternity tops and modify them into these oversized shirts that I would wear to school during my senior year of high school. And when you go through half of your life where you don't have adequate access to resources, it does something to your mind. There is something that switches in terms of the lens that you view society through, the lens that you see yourself through, but also the way that you approach the world fundamentally changes. As a result of not having access to basic necessities, I had to learn how to utilize the things that were at my disposal and to take those things and pivot them in such a way where I could represent them to the world and also to myself as substantial enough resources to make my way through society. And that was very hard. The baseline of this comes down to, as a startup founder, when you don't have the backing of a typical heteronormative family structure, how do you build a startup from nothing, when the nothing is not only nothing from a financial perspective, the nothing is nothing from an emotional support perspective. And that's a really huge differentiator in the way that you navigate everything from conversations around investors to conversations around funding your startup. I will never forget, I have attended so many seminars around, how do you get funding for your startup and what does that look like? What does it even mean to get funding as a startup? And one of the first conversations that I attended, it was a seminar, and it was a seminar for executive women, which I am. And when I attended the seminar, it was specific to, here's all the different stages of funding, the funding life cycle, so to speak, that startups go through. And the first round of funding is called Friends and Family. And I, of course, always have the audacity. So I had the audacity to ask, there is an assumption that is built into the funding structure of startups. And the assumption is that you have friends and family that have access to the financial resources necessary, and I'll say in an abundant way, that they can then provide access to those abundant financial resources to you as a founder in the friends and family funding round of your startup. But what happens, that is an assumption, and that assumption is built off of privilege. And again, it goes back to the entire startup ecosystem, the entire startup framework is built around the mindset of a privileged white male building out a company. And when you are not in that demographic, you are faced with trying to fit, in essence, a square peg into a round hole. And what do? When I posed the question to the leader, basically the facilitator of this funding presentation, she was dumbfounded and couldn't answer me in terms of what happens if you don't have access to friends and family with the financial resources necessary to support you in the friends and family funding round. And it made me take a step back and really think about, can I do this as a solo founder, woman of color, neurotypical, coming from a background of a highly disorganized, disruptive, atypical family unit where I don't have that level of support? Is it feasible for me to still build a startup company? And the answer that I came to is yes, but I have to build my own frameworks. And that's what I pose to anyone who is in the same bucket as I am. And I believe that there are a lot of us out there where we come from a dysfunctional family unit. We don't have parents to rely on in terms of emotional support nor financial support. We don't have siblings to rely on in terms of emotional support nor financial support. We don't have friends to rely on in terms of financial support, and many times emotional support, because there is a kind of silo that you get into where there is a normalization of having financial means. There's a normalization of coming from a functional family unit. And when you don't come from that, there's an embarrassment that comes about speaking about these things in public. And what I would tell you is the first time that I was able to step outside of the fear, the embarrassment, the shame of discussing my trajectory in life and how it started as a result of being a child who endured emotional and physical abuse in the home, it opened up my entire world because I was no longer forcing myself to think about how do I pretend to be something that I'm not? Meaning, how do I pretend to come from a happy, loving family? And all of my entire existence was initially built around that. I would have to fictionalize, what it was like growing up in my family. And I don't do that anymore. And there's a real freedom in that. And I would tell you, as a startup founder, if you come from a dysfunctional family background, if you come from a family background where if, in terms of demographic, it was a lower socioeconomic status, you should talk about these things. You should find solace in really vocalizing how your background is fundamentally different from others and how that strengthens your approach to problem solving, how that strengthens your approach to building a dynamic and diverse engineering team to build your startup and business team to build your startup, how that positively contributes to the way that you see your customer base and how you attribute human characteristics to your clientele, to your customers, how you don't see them as users, because even that language is steeped in privilege, how you see them as an extension of a community that you are building as a startup founder. And that is what I see in Mirror Mirror so strongly. I don't see it as users or customers or clients when I talk about who would leverage Mirror Mirror, who would want to have our AI stylist, Dorota, take a look at their closet, take a look at the pictures of them in outfits and build a digital closet, remix that digital closet and give you a lot of different variables and variations on ways that you can mix and match items that you already have in your closet, while also calling out, hey, if you are in the market for a new sweater, a new pair of pants, a new pair of shoes, here are the items I would suggest that would pair well with your existing style ethos and would also pair well with the existing elements of your closet so that you become a conscientious consumer or retail consumer. But all of that is to say, when you think of the demographics of the people who would leverage your product or service as a startup, and you come from a place of lack and you say, I lack a family, I lack a strong family unit, I lack a strong friend circle, and I want to build that sense of community through the people who will interact with the goods and services that I am building in my startup. It changes the game. You go from seeing people as a commodity that can be leveraged to benefit you and you alone and the amplification of your financial status through revenue generation and ARR, to seeing people as a net positive benefit to the well-being of yourself and others around you. And that's what community is. And it's taking a community first approach as a startup founder and thinking through, how can I make the world better with the goods and services that I am providing through my startup? And the reason why I see the world through that lens is because I came from and grew up in a place of lack. And I know what it is like to be alone. I know what it is like to struggle and to have no one to turn to. I know what it is like to realize that whether I have a plan A, a plan B, a plan C, a plan D, every single one of those plans relies on me and me alone and my ability to execute those plans through all the way through from beginning to end with little to no emotional and financial support. And when you come from a place like that, you are a force to be reckoned with, because the drive, the level of ambition, the level of heart, the level of passion, the level of ingenuity that you bring to the table at every single turn, it is a force. It is something that people will not have seen before you, because most people don't come from a place of lack. And you approach the world differently, which means as a startup founder, you approach your startup and the conceptualization of what you plan to offer to the community that you are building through your startup. You approach that fundamentally different from your competition. And that is your North Star. That is the way that you differentiate yourself in a world where now everyone says that they are building something. Everyone wants to say that they are a founder. Now everyone wants to say that they are an influencer founder. And the key question there is, what are you influencing? And if you are not positively influencing society for the better, then I would argue that your influence is inconsequential to the rest of us, and we don't need it in the world. And what I would caution you as a founder, don't hide who you truly are. If you do not have a family to lean on in terms of resources, whether those are financial or emotional, you should be open about that, because you would be surprised the way that will resonate with the community that you are building, in terms of who will leverage your goods and services as a startup. But you would also be surprised how that will resonate with investors, how that will resonate with those who are watching you build. This is especially pertinent if you are building in public. If you are building in public, please be honest about where you come from, how that has impacted the trajectory of your life, and how that impact has fundamentally altered the way that you approach problem solving, the way that you approach community building, the way that you approach team building, and the way that how all of that holistically means you are going to approach building a startup in a way that your investors have never seen before. This approach is what has made me a beast in terms of being an engineering leader and standing out at the companies that I have worked at. I am the engineering leader that was responsible for building the first global automation centers of excellence at Spotify, at E-Trade, at Bank of New York Mellon, and at Fiserv, which is the world's largest financial payments provider. And the reason why I stood out at each of those Fortune 500 companies is because I was sitting in rooms full of business architects and solution architects and business analysts and engineers, UI, UX designers, systems engineers, back-end engineers, security and risk and compliance executives. And most of them came from a place of privilege. I did not. So the way that I approached problem solving was so diametrically opposed to the way that my peers did that it made me stand out in a room. And that I am bringing all of that into the way that I approach problem solving and the way that I will stand out in the startup ecosystem as the founder and CEO of Mirror Mirror, and also as the founder and CEO of my second startup, which is Adriatic Harvest, is an ag tech startup where we're going to be building 3D printed wine barrels. We are going to be building 3D printed flavor fermentation for inside of beehive fermentation of spices. And we're also going to be building an AI IQ mechanism that will help farmers to assess different variations in the environments and ecosystems of their farms. That being said, I am very proud and humbled to talk about openly about my background and how it really will help to differentiate me in the startup market. But I'm also really proud and humbled to know that hopefully even one startup founder sees something that I have said and they see something of themselves in what I've said, then I've done the right thing by talking about this. I am proud to know that I no longer hold that fear, that embarrassment, that shame around coming from a dysfunctional family, a family that lived below the poverty level, because I know that it is going to serve someone else who sees themselves in my journey, who sees themselves in the way that I approach solutioning for my startup businesses. And that brings me not only great pride, but great solace, because when we think about big tech, it's such an echo chamber of heteronormativity. It's such an echo chamber of privilege. It's such an echo chamber of misogyny. It's such an echo chamber of majority demographic rule, which is Caucasian. And we need to change that narrative because we don't live in a world full of heterosexual men, privileged white men. We don't. We live in a world where that is one portion of the entire demographic of the global economy, the global society. And we have to start viewing business through that lens, service through that lens, product through that lens. And the lens that I'm speaking about is the lens of a richly diverse global population of people who don't think the same, act the same, look the same, experience life the same. And what does it mean to build products and services for a demographic that is fundamentally diverse? What do the goods and services look like for that society? And that's what I'm hoping to build with Mirror Mirror. I'm hoping that, and I'm not only hoping, I'm also driving this through execution, through the lens of execution, which is I want to build a product that services as much of humanity as I can, within reason. And what that means is it would be a product that services the woman who is a wife and a mother and stays at home. It would be a product that services the college sophomore student who is still trying to find her way in life and in the world, and who is struggling to make friends, and who wants to understand how to better define herself for herself so that she feels more confident stepping into the world. that I want that to be for the young teenager, young man who is fighting to understand his sexual orientation and what that will mean for him as he moves about the world, and how he can define that better through what he wears every single day when he steps into the world. I want that to be for the the young woman who is struggling with self-confidence because she is battling through domestic violence challenges, and that she is still in a partnership that is not allowing her to be her full self and is limiting her from being able to move about the world in the way that she wants. But how can we help her still find some sense of self through the clothes that she puts on when she steps into the world every single day? And that's the ethos. It's not about trying to create something for the most privileged demographics that we will come into contact with as a society. It's about creating something for all the different variations of what it means to be a human. And this goes back to, of course, as always, my training is in philosophy. Is it ethical to create these businesses that take a product or a service and create it in the image of the privilege of the startup founder's viewpoints? And I would say it is not ethically permissible, because when we think about eudaimonia, the concept of human flourishing, it means human flourishing in all facets and in all demographics. And this is what we're searching for as startup founders. How can I contribute to human flourishing from a global perspective, where I don't put my perspective inordinately on my customers, my community? I take the viewpoint that my community has a perspective, and I want to help them to hone that perspective, mature that perspective, which may mean that they step into another perspective, a different perspective than the one that they originally come to my platform with. But I want to help them. I want to be there as they mature out their perspectives, their worldviews. And I want my product and my service to contribute to that. So that's my challenge to you as a founder, or even if you are just thinking about being a founder, and you don't come from a privileged background, you don't have the typical support of friends and family from a financial and from an emotional perspective, I challenge you to see the world at large as your family, as your friends, and to take that lens and to then use that lens to create a community and a world. This is where we get into world building, which I am so passionate about. And it's something that I have done in my previous work as an engineering executive at Spotify at E-Trade. It's something that I'm doing with Mirror Mirror and Adriatic Harvest, which is, how can I build the world of Mirror Mirror? How can I build the world of Adriatic Harvest? And that's my challenge to you. When you come from a place of lack, you have to build your own world. And I challenge you, if you are not privileged and you want to start your journey as a founder, or you're in the middle of your journey as a founder, or you're at the beginning of your journey as a founder, I challenge you to build a world that is diametrically opposed to the place of lack that you came from or that you may still be in. Build a richly diverse, a richly beautiful, lavishly emotional, beautifully complex from a human emotion standpoint world that will contribute to eudaimonia, the concept of human flourishing, and build that world as an ethos of your startup. I cannot express it any more than that. There is something so incredibly beautiful about building from a place of lack. You may not have a friends and family round of fundraising that you can do, and that's okay. In fact, who gives a shit? If you don't have that, fuck it. You can still make your startup happen. You can still make beautiful things happen. If you knew all of the things that I went through in my life to build myself up from coming from abject poverty to putting my way through undergrad, to putting my way through graduate school, to now starting to go on my journey of pursuing a PhD and getting ready for PhD applications, you would be aghast. And that's what we bring to the table as startup founders who come from I'll say adverse backgrounds. We bring a sense of perspective that is not only needed in the world, I would argue that it's demanded in the world. We are demanding something more of technology, of ourselves, of humanity as a whole. And that is what big tech is missing. It's missing that demand for something more, something richer, something more human. And that's what we're bringing to the table with Mirror Mirror. We are bringing an emotional ethos, which is you don't have to have friends to be on this platform. You don't have to have followers to be on this platform. You don't have to be the cool kid in school. You don't have to be the most popular person in your office. You don't have to be the person that everyone stares at when you walk out the door. All you need to be is yourself. And when you join the Mirror Mirror community and you speak with and meet Dorota, our AI fashion stylist, for the first time, she's meeting you, authentically you, not the person that you put on as a show when you go onto Instagram or Facebook or LinkedIn or TikTok or Lemonade or Twitter/X. She's meeting the real you. And in the Mirror Mirror community, that's what we want. We want to see the real you, the messy, the ugly, the unput together, it's not stylized. It's not curated, right? I don't have a certain niche that I'm trying to fill. I'm just me outside of social media. And that me is what I bring to the table when I step into the Mirror Mirror community and I say, do you like the outfit that I'm wearing? Yes or no? Dorota, can you help me style an outfit for a job interview that I'm going to? And I'm super nervous and I don't know if what I have in my closet is enough. And I don't have enough money to be able to afford a new outfit for this job interview. But I want to feel confident and I need this job. Can you help me put together an outfit? That's what Mirror Mirror is. It's not contrived. It's not the BS. It's not this carefully crafted, curated, big tech, niched down bullshit. It's authenticity. And that's also what you learn when you come from a place of lack, when you come from poverty. You learn to be authentically you because you know that nobody gives a shit about you. So you know what? Fuck it. I'm just going to be me. And you know what? Being you, in the words of one of my muses, the most challenging, important relationship that you can have in your life is with yourself. And if you can find somebody that loves the you that you love, that's fabulous. And that's what we are pursuing at Mirror Mirror. We are looking for authenticity in this fashion tech platform, where we're providing you with an AI fashion stylist. We are providing you with crowdsourced feedback from the community without bullying, without trolls. We're providing you with the ability to build a virtual closet and remix that closet to find new outfits that you never thought possible. We are providing you with mental health feedback at every single point, so you don't feel the same way that you feel when you go on Instagram and nobody likes your post, and you go to TikTok and you see that you don't have as many followers as other people. Fuck that. We don't care about that at Mirror Mirror. What we care about is, are you happy when you come to this platform and you work with our AI fashion stylist, Dorota, and she gives you an outfit for the first day of school, or a first date, or the first day at your new job in a new career field? Do you feel like your most authentic self? And if you can come into Mirror Mirror, experience the platform, and you could step away and you could say, yes, I feel like my most authentic self, I have succeeded as a founder. And if you are a startup founder, or you are thinking about your startup founder journey, that's what you're looking for. The magic sauce is, does your community, when they come to your platform or when they use your service, do they feel like their most authentic self? And if you can say yes, they do, and more importantly, the community of users can say, yes, I feel like my most authentic self when I am leveraging this good or service, you have done your duty, not only as a founder, but as a member of society, someone who is furthering humanity for the better, instead of leeching off of humanity, which is what big tech is doing today, sucking the life out of people, and kind of changing the social mores so that everything is fixated around the weird prioritization of popularity, of followers, of these hyper inaccessible beauty ideals. We're getting rid of all of that. And I challenge you as a founder, see your business, your service through a different lens. Provide something that no one else is providing, and provide it in a way that furthers humanity. That's the call to action. Further humanity with what you are offering as a startup founder. And I will leave you with this. Coming from a place of lack can often seem like a net negative, but it can also be a blessing in disguise. It can be the secret when you think about the magic that creates a unicorn. Think about creating yourself, the magic that makes you you as a startup founder, the magic that will get you to that unicorn status. That magic is authenticity. That magic often manifests coming from a place of lack. And that magic is what will make you undeniable to everyone who comes into contact with you, whether they're coming into contact with you on a personal level, or they're coming into contact with you through that startup founder lens, through that entrepreneurship level. Be yourself, be authentic, speak to the power of human flourishing in what you are offering through your startup, and remind everyone that being unique, coming from a place of lack, there is power in that. There is profound, profound power, and dare I say magic in that. So with that, I hope you enjoyed this episode. You can find me on all of the social media platforms at Sidney, Sidney, and the city, one word, Sidney and the city. You can also find me on LinkedIn and my website at www.sidney, Sidney, Madison, Madison, Prescott, Prescott.com. And please follow me, reach out, DM me. I would love to know what you're thinking, if this episode resonated with you. And also don't forget to follow Mirror Mirror. We are on all of the social media platforms: TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Lemonade, LinkedIn, Twitter/X, YouTube, as the Mirror Mirror app. Sometimes you can find us as just at Mirror Mirror app, and our website is themirrormirrorapp.com. And please visit our website. Please sign up for the wait list. We are currently, I should say, as a solo founder, I am in the process of starting to build out the MVP for Mirror Mirror, and it is imperative that I start to build out the wait list for Mirror Mirror so that I can get a feel for being able to reach out to you and test. And I want to hear what you like, what you don't like about Mirror Mirror as a platform. So please reach out on TikTok, reach out on LinkedIn, reach out on Instagram, X, Lemonade, YouTube, on our website, and just let me know. And also Substack as well. And let me know how you feel about your startup journey as a founder. And also, if you're curious about Mirror Mirror, what questions do you have about what I am building as the world's first solo founder billionaire? So I can't wait to hear from all of you. And I will sign off with, let's get to freaking work.